Earth went silent, and the galaxy got arrogant. For many years, Earth was loud in the galaxy. It sent messages, shared technology, joined councils, and made trade with alien species. Humanity was curious, friendly, and always learning. But one day, Earth stopped talking. No one knew why. At first, the galaxy waited. Maybe Earth was just busy. Maybe it was having problems. But months passed. Then years. No signal, no travel, no answer. Earth went completely silent. The Galactic Union, made of hundreds of alien civilizations, began to whisper. Some thought Earth had destroyed itself. Others believed humans were too emotional, too aggressive, and had finally burned their own world. The Union had never trusted Earth fully. Humans were different. They adapted too fast, asked too many questions, and didn't follow the usual rules of peace. As time passed, silence became weakness. The Union grew arrogant. Alien leaders spoke on public channels, laughing at the humans. "The wild ones have finally gone extinct," said a noble from the Zarn Empire. Earth was loud because it feared being forgotten. "Now it is forgotten," said another. Young alien commanders used Earth's name as a joke. "Don't go silent, or you'll end up like the humans." They called Earth the sleeping rock. But Earth was not sleeping. In truth, humanity had gone underground, quiet by choice, not by force. Behind the silence, Earth was watching, listening, and preparing. The first real mistake came when the Union Council approved Operation Divide, a secret mission to explore and take control of Earth. "If no one lives there, we can make use of the planet," they said. "It's a waste to let it rot." A small fleet of 50 Union warships was sent toward Earth. Their mission was simple. Scan the surface, land troops, set up bases, and report back. They never returned. All contact was lost the moment they entered Earth's solar system. No distress signal. No explosion. Nothing. Just pure silence. Again. Now the Union grew uneasy. They called it a system failure. "Must be a black hole or solar storm," one general said. Another said, "They probably crashed. That planet was always unstable." To be safe, a second fleet was sent. Bigger, with over 200 ships armed with powerful weapons. This time, they sent live cameras and faster data transmitters. What they saw was fear itself. As the fleet reached orbit, screens went black one by one. Ships disappeared like shadows in the fog. One camera caught a shape. A large, black object that moved without sound, without light. Then static. Then nothing. One alien commander managed to send a final short message before his ship vanished. "It's not empty. It's watching us." Panic started in the council. They tried to deny it, but whispers spread across the galaxy. A few brave species warned others, "Leave Earth alone. Something is wrong there." But the arrogant ones didn't stop. They couldn't believe that humans, once loud, messy, and simple, had become dangerous in silence. Pride blinded them. What they didn't know was that Earth had changed. While the galaxy grew fat with power and lazy with peace, humanity was building the Ghost Fleet, a new type of weapon. Ships without crew, controlled by AI built to be invisible, fast, and merciless. For 10 years, Earth hid in silence, creating the perfect war machine. They didn't attack first. They waited, watched, collected data, and when the time came, they made sure no enemy ship left alive. Now, the galaxy didn't laugh anymore. The Zarn Empire sent spies. None came back. The Vurex Alliance sent a peace signal, begging for information. Earth did not reply. But somewhere on a forgotten space station, a small group of Union scientists picked up a signal. It was human, short, cold. It said, "We asked for peace. You chose pride. Now we choose silence." And then came the symbol, an old Earth symbol. A lion's head, roaring, with stars behind it. The message was clear. Earth was not dead. Earth was not weak. Earth was coming back. And this time, it was not coming to talk. The first strike, humanity's Ghost Fleet. The galaxy could no longer pretend nothing was wrong. Earth's silence had turned into a black hole of fear, pulling in attention, rumors, and dread. The failed missions, the vanishing fleets, the chilling final messages. All of it pointed to one truth. Earth was still alive, and it was angry. But still, the Galactic Union hesitated to act. Arrogance was hard to shake off. For centuries, they had crushed rebellions, silenced uprisings, and absorbed weak civilizations into their growing empire. No one had ever stood against them for long. Not even once. To them, Earth had always been a small, noisy planet with an oversized ego. How could it become a threat now? But deep inside, many Union leaders were nervous. They didn't understand what had happened to their fleets. They didn't like that they had no answers. So, to calm public fear and protect their pride, the Union Council decided to send another expedition, this time bigger, smarter, and more cautious. This mission wouldn't just be military, it would include scientists, analysts, translators, and even peace envoys. Their goal was to re-establish contact with Earth, understand what went wrong, and, if needed, remind humanity who held the real power in the galaxy. The fleet that launched was massive. Over 600 ships. Commanded by Admiral Pharaohs, a veteran of 3 interstellar wars. He was known for being bold, aggressive, and completely loyal to the Union. But even he was uneasy. As the ships moved closer to Earth's solar system, strange things began to happen. Long-range scanners began showing incorrect positions. Communication between ships started breaking for seconds at a time. Drones sent ahead disappeared without trace. And worst of all, some crew members began reporting strange sounds over the comms. Human whispers, speaking perfect galactic common, saying things like, "We warned you," "We see you," or "You are already dead." The Union called it psychological warfare. Maybe Earth had developed tech to mess with their minds. Or maybe it was just fear. Then, without warning, it began. Not with a massive explosion. Not with lasers or missiles. But with stillness. Silence returned, thicker than before. Every screen on every ship went black for exactly 8 seconds. No sound. No movement. Total blackout. Then they came. Human ships, unlike anything seen before, slid out of the blackness like shadows given life. No engines visible. No lights. No radio signals. Just matte black metal moving like they didn't care about physics. The fleet didn't respond to hails. They didn't fire first. They just surrounded the Union ships like a trap closing slowly, without emotion, without hesitation. Admiral Pharaohs ordered a full attack. Union ships launched missiles, activated shields, and opened fire with plasma beams. But nothing hit. The human ships moved like ghosts, bending around attacks, disappearing and reappearing in impossible positions. It was as if they knew every move before it was made. One by one, Union vessels were disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. Engines sliced apart. Communication cut. Weapons melted. Human drones entered the ships, shutting down systems without killing the crew. It wasn't war. It was domination. And worst of all, not a single human life was seen during the entire battle. That's when the truth hit them. These weren't piloted ships. There were no humans on board. Earth had sent machines fully autonomous, emotionless, and precise. These were the Ghost Fleet, legendary in secret reports, but laughed at by Union officials who thought AI was too unstable for war. But these weren't just AI. These were something else. Built not only for victory, but for psychological destruction. The Union soldiers, trained for battle, now sat in their ships, powerless and afraid, listening to the cold silence of being hunted by an enemy they couldn't see or understand. One transmission was captured by a Union outpost monitoring the battle. It was human. A male voice, calm, with no emotion, said, "This was not a mistake. You entered our home. You insulted our people. You laughed at our silence. Now we will teach you the value of listening." Then the signal ended, and nothing more was heard. The Union called off the mission. Admiral Pharaoh's ship never returned. Of the 600 ships, only 3 made it back. Damaged, shaken, and with crews unable to speak clearly about what they saw. Back in the Union capital, fear turned to rage. They declared Earth a Level 1 threat, the highest possible danger classification. But by then, it was already too late. Across the galaxy, systems began reporting strange events. Union patrols disappearing. Weapon systems locking without command. Human signals appearing in remote corners of space. Earth hadn't just built a defense. It had built a network. It had spread its ghost fleet far and wide, preparing for this exact moment. They were everywhere now. And for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Union understood what it felt like to be hunted. The galaxy's first loss in centuries. The Galactic Union had never experienced a true defeat. Not in over 800 years. Their empire was built on fear, order, and control. Every species they absorbed was forced to accept peace, but that peace always came after surrender. From the outside, the galaxy looked calm, united under one flag, one council, one voice. But under the surface, many species obeyed the Union not out of loyalty, but because they had no choice. Power had kept the Union alive. And now, for the first time in living memory, that power had failed. Earth, one single planet, quiet for a decade, had not only resisted, but humiliated them. A fleet of over 600 warships had been defeated without a single human death. Not by superior numbers or brutal force, but by precision, strategy, and silence. The fear that followed wasn't just military, it was psychological. What kind of enemy fights without speaking? What kind of mind builds a war machine that doesn't need pilots, doesn't broadcast threats, and doesn't even celebrate its victory? What kind of civilization waits 10 years in silence, planning its retaliation in shadows, while the rest of the galaxy mocks it? The panic spread like wildfire. Civilian broadcasts on alien worlds played leaked footage from the surviving Union ships. Grainy, glitching images of black vessels moving like shadows across the stars. In some, crew members were seen abandoning posts, crying, even praying. Union censors tried to control the narrative, calling Earth unstable and dangerous. But the people knew better. Something terrifying had changed. Earth wasn't unstable. It was focused, cold, intentional, and that scared them more than anything. It meant humanity wasn't acting out of fear or desperation. It was acting out of calculation. This was a plan. And it wasn't over. Across Union space, military bases increased their alert level. Patrols doubled. Communications were restricted. Secret emergency meetings took place behind closed doors. The Union Supreme Council, made up of the oldest and most powerful species, met to decide the next steps. Some wanted to respond with full force, gather the largest fleet in history and erase Earth from the map. But others, older and wiser, argued that such a move could lead to a war they couldn't win. They asked the one question no one wanted to hear. What if Earth isn't alone? What if humans have already spread further than we think? What if the Ghost Fleet was only the beginning? While the Union argued, Earth moved quietly. No speeches, no broadcasts, just results. Trade stations began to fail without warning. Supply routes were disrupted by silent attacks. Cargo ships disabled and left drifting. Orbital defense satellites around key Union colonies turned to face their own planets, locked in permanent targeting mode. The Ghost Fleet didn't always destroy. Sometimes it simply reminded the galaxy that it could. That was Earth's new weapon. Not just force, but fear. It didn't need to fire every time. The silence spoke louder. And yet, still, no human had been seen. No soldiers. No leaders. No diplomats. Earth had become a myth, a shadow behind the curtain. Rumors began to spread in back channels and underground networks. Stories of humans who had been watching alien worlds for years, living among them in disguise, collecting data, learning weaknesses. Whether true or not, the fear became real. Who could be trusted? Who might be human in secret? Entire colonies turned against each other in paranoia. The Union's control was breaking from the inside. Then came the message, short, sharp, and undeniable. Broadcast across the entire Union on every known channel, translated perfectly into every known language. A simple human voice spoke, calm and clear. We asked for peace. You laughed. You sent fleets. Now you understand silence. Do not test our patience again. After that, screens across the galaxy went black for exactly 1 minute. Then everything returned to normal. The message was gone. No trace. No signal source. Just silence once again. In response, the Union began deploying anti-AI systems, building new fleets, and even attempting to create their own versions of the Ghost Fleet. But they were too late. Earth had the advantage now. It had built not just machines, but an entire ecosystem of digital warfare, remote sabotage, and stealth technology years ahead of anything the Union had seen. And worse, Earth was patient. It wasn't rushing toward a final battle. It was letting the fear grow, letting the galaxy turn against itself. Humans had learned that fear could do more damage than weapons. In a hidden chamber on one of Earth's orbital black sites, high above the planet's surface, a human general stood watching hundreds of screens showing live feeds from across the galaxy. He spoke to no one in particular, just to the darkness around him. They never understood us. They thought we needed to speak to be heard. They thought silence meant surrender. He smiled slightly, but silence was our weapon. Now they finally know. Earth wasn't seeking peace anymore. It wasn't looking for approval or alliances. It had learned what the galaxy respected, and it wasn't kindness. It was power. Cold, quiet power. And with every passing day, the humans made sure the stars remembered one thing above all. Never mistake silence for weakness. Inside Earth's War Council, deep beneath the surface of Earth, far below the oceans and buried beneath the last of the old cities, a chamber existed that almost no one on the planet knew about. It was never marked on any map, never mentioned in any transmission, and never recorded in any official files. Built in silence over a decade ago, it was designed not for defense, not for diplomacy, but for calculation. They called it the core, and inside it, the true leadership of Earth operated. Not politicians, not media faces, not loud voices. These were people selected for what they had survived, what they had built, and what they understood. Scientists who had predicted the galaxy's betrayal before it happened. Generals who had studied every recorded interstellar war in history. Engineers who had built machines that could think faster than humans, learn faster than any biological brain, and strike before the enemy even realized it was under attack. The room was cold and silent, shaped like a sphere with floating displays, real-time feeds, and constant updates from every part of the galaxy. Drones reported back from Union space. AI systems analyzed troop movements, political shifts, energy signatures, and supply chains. Nothing escaped Earth's attention now. At the center of the sphere stood Director Kale, once a decorated fleet commander, now the supreme coordinator of Earth's return to the stars. His eyes moved across the data without emotion, absorbing everything. Around him, a dozen others worked in silence, each responsible for a layer of the operation. Not a single word was wasted. They had no time for speeches. The galaxy had made its choice, and Earth had made its response. Director Kale spoke quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, but it echoed across the chamber through the soft audio system. The Union is unstable. Their internal surveillance is turning against them. Their outer colonies are requesting independence, and their military has no counter-strategy to our current deployments. He paused, reading another stream of updates. It's time. There was no vote, no hesitation. Every person in that room had known this moment would come. Earth had tested the Union's strength and found it hollow. The fear strategy had worked, but fear was only the first step. Now came the strike that would split the galaxy, not through blood, but through disbelief. They weren't going to attack a military target. They were going to attack the Union's most powerful symbol, the Eternal Throne. The Eternal Throne was not just a palace. It was a monument built into the core of a massive space station orbiting the capital planet of the Union. Larger than any known station in the galaxy, it was considered untouchable. Every Union leader, emperor, and chancellor had sat on that throne for the past 6 centuries. It was surrounded by defense fleets, energy shields, and over 1,000 layers of security, physical and digital. No enemy had ever come close to threatening it. But Earth had no intention of approaching it with a traditional fleet. They didn't need numbers. They needed only one thing: precision. As the operation began, Earth's agents embedded across the galaxy activated their long-planned protocols. Hackers in distant systems turned Union satellites against their own defense networks. Blackout pulses shut down communication relays between Union sectors. Cargo shipments, seemingly harmless, activated internal sabotage codes and detonated at key orbital ports, drawing attention away from the capital. While the Union scrambled to respond to chaos across its borders, Earth's Ghost Fleet began its silent approach toward the Eternal Throne. The ships didn't move in formation. They drifted like debris, hidden among space junk, radiation clouds, and old wreckage. Their hulls were coated with adaptive material that reflected no signals, and they carried no crew, just one purpose: disable the symbol of Union power in front of the entire galaxy. The Corps didn't want to destroy the station. That would be too easy, too expected. They wanted to take control of it, live, while every major broadcast station in the galaxy was watching. Earth's message wasn't just for the Union. It was for everyone. As the Ghost Fleet reached the outer perimeter, Union sensors didn't react. Their systems had been blinded minutes earlier by false signals coming from their own stations. Security AIs, once proud defenders of the throne, now looped footage of empty space. It wasn't until the first internal doors opened inside the station that someone realized something was wrong. By then, it was too late. Earth's infiltration drones moved silently, disabling guards, rewriting systems, and locking down corridors. In less than 7 minutes, the command chamber of the Eternal Throne was under human control. Every screen in the galaxy blinked once, then again, then changed. Across every planet, station, ship, and civilian terminal, the same feed appeared. Live footage of the Union's most sacred chamber. Now quiet, empty except for one figure. A human woman standing before the throne. She said nothing at first. She let the silence settle. Then, slowly and clearly, she spoke. You built this place to rule. You built it to remind everyone that you could not be challenged. You called us animals, invaders, savages. You laughed when we asked for peace. You mocked our silence. And now you listen. She stepped aside as the camera panned to the throne itself. Empty. Not destroyed. Just waiting. Then the broadcast cut, ending with Earth's symbol. A lion's head, roaring in shadow, backlit by stars. The Union didn't issue a response for 3 full days. And when they did, their message was not a declaration of war. It was a plea for negotiations. Earth had not just won a battle. It had shattered an illusion. The galaxy had seen the truth. Power was no longer in the hands of the loudest voice. It was in the hands of those who understood silence and how to use it as a weapon. The Union strikes back, but too late. The humiliation of the Eternal Throne shook the Galactic Union to its core. In every corner of its empire, trust began to collapse. News of Earth's infiltration spread faster than any warship could travel. Dozens of systems once loyal to the Union began to question everything. Its promises, its strength, its future. The unthinkable had happened. The symbol of galactic dominance had been hijacked by a planet that had not fired a single public shot. But empires, especially arrogant ones, rarely learn their lessons the first time. Instead of retreating, the Union chose the only response it understood: force. Its top generals gathered in secret war rooms, silenced internal rebellions, and began assembling the largest invasion fleet in recorded history. Over 10,000 ships, thousands of elite troops, artificial command intelligences, planetary siege cannons, and experimental weaponry, all aimed at one target: Earth. They named the operation Ash Veil, a title meant to erase not only the planet but its memory. No prisoners, no broadcast, just fire and silence. The Council believed this show of overwhelming strength would restore fear across the galaxy. They thought if they crushed Earth publicly and brutally, the stars would fall back in line. Their strategy was simple: strike Earth before it could retaliate, burn it to ash, and end this nightmare before it spread further. But what they didn't understand, what they refused to believe, was that Earth had seen this move coming a decade ago. In the core, Earth's leaders had studied Union war doctrines, psychological profiles, and strategic patterns. They knew the Union would respond like a wounded animal, angry, reckless, and predictable. So when the invasion fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, they didn't find a battlefield. They found nothing. No resistance, no defense lines, no cities, no signals, Earth had vanished from their sensors, not destroyed but hidden. It was still there, beneath clouds thicker than normal, behind surface signals scrambled beyond repair. But it was not the Earth they expected. What was once a planet filled with noise, lights, and movement was now eerily still. They scanned continents, no life signs. They scanned oceans, no ships, no power grids. Everything was empty, like a museum of a dead world. But it wasn't dead. The Union's elite commandos landed and marched through empty megacities, finding buildings untouched, food still warm on tables, children's toys left behind as if people had just vanished. The psychological impact was immediate. They had come to destroy, but there was nothing to destroy, only absence. Then the attacks began. Not from the front, not from the skies, but from behind, inside, and below. Union ships began vanishing from orbit without warning. Systems inside the vessels turned against them. Life support shutting down, navigation scrambling, weapon systems locking on friendly targets. Ground troops lost contact with their command ships. Communications between platoons were hijacked, voices replaced with looping messages of Earth's old leaders whispering, "You are in our house now." Panic erupted across the fleet. Trained soldiers began firing at shadows, some even turning on their own officers in confusion. The Union had expected open war, not psychological dismantling. What they failed to see was that Earth's silence had never been weakness, it was evolution. For years, humanity had moved beyond its surface. Entire populations had relocated into orbital habitats, underground bunkers, deep-sea cities, and off-world stations hidden in asteroid fields. Earth had become a shell, a trap designed to catch the very response the Union was now executing. While they poured their fleet into Earth's atmosphere, Earth's real power struck elsewhere. At the exact moment the Union's grand invasion reached Earth's surface, multiple coordinated attacks were launched across Union space. On the far side of the galaxy, near the inner rim, Earth's long-range strike fleet, silent and cloaked, appeared without warning above the Union's three most critical shipyards. Within minutes, the shipyards were reduced to burning wreckage. On the Union's core communication planet, all interstellar channels went dead as Earth's virus-based drones buried themselves in the network spine, severing Union command structures entirely. And perhaps most devastating of all, the Union's main banking hub, the place where energy credits were stored, where economies functioned, was hacked and drained. Billions of credits disappeared, converted into black cipher codes that no one could trace. Economies froze. Merchant ships turned back. Allies hesitated. The galaxy, once controlled by schedules and structure, now spun in chaos. Back in Earth's orbit, the Union fleet began retreating, but there was nowhere safe to go. Earth's ghost fleet, hidden beneath layers of orbital debris and disguised as dead satellites, activated and closed in. Not to destroy, but to disable. Ships were trapped between Earth's false silence and the ghost fleet's real wrath. It was a chessboard Earth had built 10 years ago, and the Union had walked right into checkmate. Within 36 hours, Operation Ashvale had collapsed. Over 70% of the invasion fleet was offline, captured, or missing. Earth had not lost a single soldier. In the aftermath, scattered Union commanders attempted to regroup. Some tried to call for backup. Some tried to negotiate. But Earth didn't respond. It didn't need to. The message had already been sent. Not through words, but through mastery. Earth didn't just win battles, it rewrote the rules. It made the enemy feel small. And across the galaxy, those watching began to understand. This wasn't just war. This was transformation. On remote colony worlds, alien leaders began cutting ties with the Union quietly. Trade ships altered their routes to avoid Union checkpoints. Resistance groups that had been silent for decades began moving again, inspired by Earth's defiance. The balance of power was tilting, not through armies, but through fear, awe, and inspiration. Earth had not screamed its return. It had whispered, and the entire galaxy had listened. In the core, Director Kale watched the collapse unfold in real time. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He simply turned to his advisors and said, "Now they know. We don't need to chase them. They will come to us." And far above the world once called Earth, Orbiting in silence, a human satellite broadcast one message on a clean, open channel. We told you not to come. Surrender or burn. After the failure of the largest invasion in galactic history, the Galactic Union was no longer a government, it was a ghost. Its fleets were scattered, its leadership fractured, and its systems were falling apart faster than they could be repaired. The old pride that once held the stars together had turned to silence, fear, and disobedience. For centuries, the Union had ruled through control and order, with policies dressed as peace and power disguised as protection. But in less than a standard cycle, Earth had shattered that illusion. It had not only survived the wrath of the Union, but humiliated it. And the galaxy, watching from every corner, now waited to see what the humans would do next. The answer came, as always, without warning, without grand speeches, and without empty threats. Just a message, simple and clear, broadcast on every public channel, visible to every government, soldier, and civilian. It read, "You now have two choices. Surrender or burn. There will be no third." The galaxy froze. Entire planetary councils sat in silence as the message repeated once every hour. Union-loyal generals who once barked orders now stood unsure, their chains of command broken, their fleets offline or hijacked by ghost fleet saboteurs. Many tried to organize resistance. They gathered whatever forces they could, hired mercenaries, fortified key worlds. But Earth had already anticipated this desperate last gasp. It didn't need to conquer worlds, it just needed to make an example of one. The first was Chiron Delta, a mid-level industrial colony with heavy military presence and close ties to Union leadership. The planet's defense grid was known to be one of the most advanced outside the core worlds. It was well-armed, well-prepared, and fully aware of Earth's growing reach. But none of it mattered. At dawn, every defensive satellite in orbit turned inward and detonated. The surface stations received false signals, drawing their power reserves offline. Human strike drones appeared from beneath the oceans, launched years ago and hidden in silence. Within 23 minutes, the entire military complex had been neutralized. No human soldiers, no firefights, no negotiations. And yet, the message was clear. Earth had eyes everywhere, and patience enough to wait for perfect execution. But Earth didn't hold Chiron Delta. It didn't plant flags or build occupation camps. It left, crippled the infrastructure, erased the command network, and vanished back into the void, leaving the world intact but helpless. Then it repeated the same tactic on two more Union-aligned planets, fast, precise, and surgical. The message wasn't about destruction. It was about control. Earth wasn't offering mercy out of kindness. It was offering a way out, surrender and survive or resist and disappear. And surprisingly, many took the first option. Former Union colonies began opening private communication channels to Earth, sending coded signals requesting peace, protection, and in some cases, alliance. These weren't attacks anymore. They were negotiations conducted through fear. Entire planetary governments voted to declare neutrality. Some even offered up their Union defense codes in exchange for being left untouched. Earth accepted these surrenders without emotion. No parades, no celebrations. Just silence and a short reply, "You chose wisely." Meanwhile, the remnants of the Union Council scrambled to hold onto what little power remained. Their attempts to call for reinforcements failed. Their command fleets were either missing, destroyed, or too afraid to respond. Desperate, the Council attempted one last move, a propaganda campaign designed to turn the galaxy against Earth. They began broadcasting claims that Earth was planning to enslave every species, that it was building a human-only empire, that it would burn every world that did not obey. The campaign was loud, desperate, and everywhere. But Earth didn't even respond to it. Instead, Earth showed something else. On a live broadcast hijacked from the Union's own network, Earth played a series of unedited recordings. Footage of their ghost fleet saving civilians on rebel planets from pirate raids, drones delivering medical supplies to outer colony hospitals abandoned by the Union, and humans repairing ancient infrastructure on dying planets. All without asking for credit, allegiance, or reward. It was surgical warfare followed by silent aid. Earth wasn't looking for conquest. It was building a system of respect, one world at a time. Not through force, but through precision, reliability, and brutal honesty. That contrast was what broke the last fragments of Union loyalty. Even those who feared Earth's power couldn't deny its discipline. The humans had every chance to destroy entire planets, and they hadn't. They had every right to seek revenge, and instead they offered terms. They didn't hide behind politics or religion or vague promises. They gave the galaxy two choices, and enforced that offer with perfect clarity. One Union general, once known for his hatred of Earth, was captured after a failed counterattack near the Orion Spires. During his interrogation, he didn't resist. He simply shook his head and whispered, "We thought their silence meant fear. We were wrong. It meant they were listening and learning." Then he asked to defect. Earth accepted his surrender just like the others. Back on Earth's primary command station, orbiting far beyond the original solar system, Director Kale reviewed the latest reports. Resistance was now limited to only 5 sectors. Most of the galaxy had either surrendered or gone silent. Earth had not only won, it had reshaped the rules of war. Not through domination, but by proving something terrifying to every species. That a silent enemy who prepares for 10 years is far more dangerous than a loud one who brags for centuries. Earth's final plan was now ready. Not full control. Not galactic rule. But enforcement. From this point on, Earth would not govern the stars, it would watch them. Any system threatening peace, balance, or independence would face the same decision. And the galaxy now knew better than to test the patience of a species that had waited 10 years to speak only one sentence. Surrender or burn. The roar heard across the stars. The galaxy had grown quiet. Not the silence of ignorance or arrogance, but the kind of silence that comes only after pain, fear, and awakening. Once it had laughed at Earth. Now it listened. Once it had sent fleets to conquer. Now it asked for terms. The Galactic Union, the oldest and largest power structure in known history, no longer existed in function, only in memory. Its leaders were either captured, missing, or had fled into exile, whispering about Earth's rise with the bitterness of those who lost everything and still could not understand why. But Earth had never aimed to rule in the old ways. It had no interest in occupying planets, planting flags, or forcing culture upon others. What it wanted, what it had always wanted, was freedom, respect, and peace earned through balance, not blood. The galaxy had offered mockery instead. It had answered Earth's silence with arrogance. And so Earth had given them a new language to understand: action. Now, after 2 years of precise operations, calculated mercy, and final warnings, the war was no longer a war. It had become something else, something deeper. A shift in thought, in behavior, in understanding. Systems that once bowed to Union laws now followed Earth's standard willingly. Not because they were ordered to, but because they knew what came next if they didn't. They weren't enslaved. They weren't controlled. They were simply monitored. Earth had deployed its final phase. A galactic presence, not of occupation but observation. Thousands of Sentry satellites, each powered by adaptive AI, now orbited every major sector. They did not fire. They did not speak. They simply watched. Silent guardians that didn't need orders because their programming followed one rule: prevent tyranny with extreme precision if necessary. Director Kale stood in the observation deck of Earth's central orbital fortress, Vigil, named not for war, but for what came after. Below him, Earth's new capital sparkled in the atmosphere of a terraformed moon. Not Earth itself, which remained untouched and preserved, a memory of what was. Humanity had moved forward, literally and philosophically. Colonies flourished across moons, stations, and hollowed asteroids, each designed for long-term balance, not endless expansion. Kale did not wear medals. He did not speak in public. His role was not to be celebrated, only to ensure the strategy continued. Around him, the command chamber was quiet, staffed by humans and trusted AI working in seamless rhythm. There were no alarms, no chaos, no shouting. The war was over. Now came the responsibility that followed it. Elsewhere in the galaxy, changes echoed like the fading thunder of a storm that had passed, leaving reshaped landscapes behind. On former Union worlds, people rebuilt, not as citizens of an empire, but as participants in a new, cautious peace. Trade returned, slowly. education shifted. History was rewritten with honesty, with chapters that included Earth's silence, its patience, and the consequences of ignoring both. Children learned about the day the Ghost Fleet shut down the Eternal Throne. Politicians spoke more carefully now, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Earth had never wanted to lead by fear, but fear had been the only language the Union had left it. Now, the language was caution, wisdom, and equilibrium. And then came the message, Earth's final transmission. Not a threat, not a demand, but a reminder, one that would become legend. Every screen in the galaxy went dark for 10 seconds, the same number of years Earth had stayed silent. Then a signal appeared, simple and clear. A single human stood in front of a starfield. No name, no title, just a voice. Calm, focused, final.